and it hits me, oh my gosh, this is that triangle.
You know, there's explanation for everything that occurred in the Rendlesham Forest incident that doesn't involve aliens at all.
It was completely silent. It comes right over our heads.
He saw a classic flying saucer, really, standing in the clearing.
He turned over to my father and held his hand, and he looked in his eyes, and he said, "We're not alone."
Welcome to Podcast UFO for our live show. We're live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Dark Matter Radio Network. Please remember to visit the website podcastufo.com for past episodes, blogs, and forums. During the show, feel free to participate live in our chat room. And don't forget to like us on our very active Facebook page.
Hello, everyone. This is Martin Willis, and welcome to the show. And I am in Connecticut with our guest today, Marc D'Antonio. We have Alejandro Rojas coming up live in just a second. But just before that, a couple of things. When you make a mistake or two, I actually made 2 mistakes last week, and I got many, many emails. And I want to apologize. It's crazy. I said Happy Veterans Day. Well, this is the real Veterans Day. It came up on my computer. I looked down on my computer just before we went live, and I saw Veterans Day, but obviously it was on the 11th, and I apologize to that. So veterans, you get 2 Veterans Day celebrations this year because of me. And anyway, I apologize for that. And the second thing is I said Australia had 2 million people. Well, that was a verbal typo. I meant to say 23 or 20 million. It is actually 23 million, and I got almost that many emails from you down under, and we have a lot of listeners there, and thank you for your comments. I always welcome your comments. Well, we only have one more week for our T-shirt graphic contest, and let me tell you, the voting application on it is kind of screwy. You can't really see the results. I can see the results, but we need more people voting on that. We have just 1 week left, and you can choose that. Go right on podcastufo.com, and you can see T-shirts right on the sidebar. Click on that, and you can vote. And we also, you can support the show to listen to the second half. You can listen to the whole show live every week right here in the Dark Matter Digital Network. And I think that is it. We're just about ready to go here. Alejandro, how are you? Thanks for joining us live.
I'm all right. I'm a little frustrated.
Uh-oh, what happened?
Frustrated. So I posted this video today. You know, we've talked about these sightings. There was this one in Texas, and I got a lot of heat, maybe you did too, for telling people it was a light. It was a street lamp, a highway street lamp. And we've seen these since where they're circular lights or 2 lights, and people are taking a picture from the road, and they get these lights that they didn't see themselves but show up in the camera, and they're shaped exactly like the lamps on the streets. So I took a video of this happening while I'm driving so you could see how it's just a reflection moving around from the street lights, and I posted it for reference so people can see, and people are just flipping out. That's not a UFO, that's obviously a reflection. And it's like, oh my gosh, exactly, it's a reflection, that's my point. So that's got me all flustered.
Well, I don't know. I'm sure you noticed this, but, we have a pretty active Facebook page. Mm-hmm. And people tend to look at the picture and react.
Yeah.
And that's it. They don't it's very, very few click-throughs to an actual story. I've noticed that. You have to keep things as simple as possible.
Right.
If you can put a whole story in a title, that's the only way people can actually see it.
You're right. I have a little saying that I'll post, and I love doing it. And I'll put, click the link, read the story, and all shall be revealed. And when I type it, that's how I'm thinking of it. Click the link and read the story, and all shall be revealed. So I post that when people are like, dude, that's probably a bird. Well, if you read the story, it would explain how it is a bird.
And Alejandro, I have to tell you, this is Mark.
Mark.
I apologize to you again on the air. I've done that to you.
That's true. Mark has totally done that. I have had to use that little saying of mine on Mark, and he's probably the highest ranking researcher I've ever had to use that. But, we all get busy. But
you only had to use it once.
That's true. And you did apologize, and you just like Martin did earlier.
Yes.
Because there's 2 million people in Australia thing.
Yeah, that's right. So what else is happening for news this week? It seems like there's some things going on.
Yeah, UFO news. I've got a few stories here. Of course, there's the Navy missile test that I'm sure you and Mark are going to talk a lot about. And, what's great about this picture, and some people have noticed it, but I'm sure this frustrates Mark as well. You see this cone of gases, and you see a little purple streak in the middle. And we've seen this before, and those have been missile tests in the past. What's frustrating is most of the people who are posting these pictures and saying, look, it looks just like the spiral in Norway, or it looks just like this. They're posting those as arguments that it's not a missile in fact, Mark came on my show, and at the beginning of the show, when it came to the Norway spiral, I was like, come on, Mark, how can this be a missile? And he explained it to me, and by the end of the show, I was like, okay, it's a missile. But that's what these are. We even have similar pictures taken by the military where they're showing, different missile tests. So it's spectacular. I think the video, at least the video we posted that Khloe Kardashian actually also tweeted of this missile test, is spectacular. I mean, the video's amazing. This gaseous cloud took up so much of the sky. I think less of it. It's not a UFO. It's a missile. What I think is scary is the state of affairs with our Russian friends, your Russian friends that you just went and visited, the old lady who wanted to kill you. What's scary is that we're testing these missiles when we have kind of this Cold War kind of reigniting. Right. No, I watched the videos, and I thought it was. I knew right away after seeing some missile shots before that it was very similar, and so it had to be most likely that. But it was pretty amazing where people were absolutely flipping out because they didn't know what it was, and they were scared. Mm-hmm. I can see why people. I mean, it is such a weird thing. But what really puzzles me is that I guess they have to keep it secret when they're going to launch it. But it's too bad they didn't let the public know, or at least they can't give away. Yeah,
daylight or something,
Yeah, exactly, and and that's why people are going to get scared. They don't know what it is, but it is surprising, and I'm sure you and Mark will talk about this. How many people still don't believe it is a missile? In fact, I titled my story "Naval Missiles Test Causes UFO Scare." I've got 2 comments on that story. It's a lot of reads, but 2 comments. Both of these people are saying, "Oh, that's not a missile." And they are explaining themselves with it. Their theories don't make sense to me, but still a lot of people who think this is some kind of cover-up or something going on there.
Yes, I heard the word cover-up, too. A lot of people are calling it a cover-up.
Yeah.
So what else do we have going on?
What else? We got a cool story from Roger Marsh, MUFON's director of communications. Of course, he posts stories at openminds.tv. And this is one of a commercial pilot. And it's an interesting story of a commercial pilot who says, they saw a bright light in the sky above them to the left, and it turned into 2 rectangular-shaped lights. So kind of an interesting story. It's a bit short, and there's a drawing, a sketch from the pilots. There's no picture or video, but it's always exciting to get a sighting report from commercial pilots.
Excellent. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of rare, very rare that happens. Is that it for this evening?
No.
Okay, good. Let's keep going, buddy.
All right. So the next one, the last one, I think this one's really cool. Actually, I saw this story. It posted in a Canadian paper a few weeks ago, and it was kind of their Halloween story. But what's cool about this is a story actually from 1978 of a UFO sighting in Clarenville, which is a town in Newfoundland in Canada. And this police officer, a Royal Canadian Mounted Police, but He was called to the site of a UFO sighting in 1978. He only recently posted this YouTube video of an interview from back then, and I think that's what's cool about this. And he did this interview with a Canadian newspaper where he talks about it, but he was called to the scene. There's about a dozen people there, and he says only maybe about 100 feet away from the shore, in between him and a island called Random Island, that there's this craft floating above the water. He says it's off the water. It's floating, hovering there. He said it was the size of a Boeing 737, and it was cigar shaped. He looked at it with some very powerful telescope that they used for, I guess, looking for planes carrying drugs and stuff back then. And he said this thing was just weird. He said that the cover of it was kind of jagged. It wasn't soft. It was a bit coarse. But they watched it for like 2 hours before it took off very quickly in the sky. So nobody knows what this was. The media got a hold of it, and this is kind of an interesting part of this story also. He shied away. He didn't want to talk about it. He didn't want the other cops to make fun of him. But his superiors told him to do every interview that request that he gets. And he got a ton. He got them from CNN and from all of the news agencies wanted to interview him. And he did the interviews. But he said it kind of made his life hell because he was known for the UFO thing, and Clarenville became famous for this UFO sighting. Eventually he left and he went to Nova Scotia, where he lives now, and he never talked about the UFO thing again. He recently was in an episode, or will be, of a show called Close Encounters. I think Marc might be in that show, but I think it's only aired in Canada. But it sounds like a really good show. I know there's a lot of UFO researchers who have been in it, but they're going to cover this case in an upcoming episode.
Yeah, I've heard that show is really good, but I don't think it's come to the United States yet at all.
Yeah, I don't think it has. I think Leslie Kane was in it, Nick Pope, and is Marc still there? Did he fall asleep?
No, I sent him home.
Okay, good.
Oh, that's right, we're home.
It's his home.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
He made me wait outside for a little while.
Yeah.
Were you in that show, Close Encounters?
No, I do the NASA's Unexplained Files series.
Uh-huh. Well, you do more than that. You're in like several shows.
Well, yeah, a few, but I'm not gonna put that out.
Don't be so humble.
He's humble.
Yeah.
We're in his bunker. You got to see this bunker. It's and actually, you can see this on YouTube. This will be on YouTube.
Oh,
but
cool.
we're in his bunker. It looks just like we're in a destroyer or something.
Yeah.
World War II. There's rivets everywhere and
real portholes.
Real portholes.
Yeah.
It's really quite unique for sure.
Wow, crazy.
If I have to work here, it has to look good,
Does he have a flux capacitor?
No,
I've been looking for one, but
I didn't go the sci-fi route. I had several people that asked me to make this a sci-fi themed thing, so you'd like walk into Star Trek or something. Mm-hmm. But I do a lot of work for the Navy, as you know, and the Navy guys like to see naval stuff. So they show up. There's a diver's helmet. There's rivets in the walls. There's rust stains on sheetrock that look like steel, and it just looks really weird.
Yeah, it's all patchy like a real one is.
But I know you do lots of space stuff, too, not only the consulting for NASA's files or whatever that is, but also you build these planets, right?
Oh, that's correct. I have about 175 buildings left to go in the United States.
Wow.
A number of them right there in Arizona near you. We did Gilbert, Arizona, and a bunch of others. And we make these giant planets that hang from the ceiling, and they're illuminated. So they're really cool looking.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Do you have any there?
No, actually,
just saw pictures.
I don't. I showed Martin some pictures earlier.
I thought maybe you would...
We opened up a second FX Models out in Colorado. So,
cool.
I have another group in Arvada, Colorado that's actually working with me on this project.
Oh, I know where that is.
Actually. I was kind of thinking that you would give Martin a planet as a gift, and I was just kind of picturing him driving home in his Yugo with a giant Mars.
I was thinking of Jupiter. I might as well go big.
Jupiter's
and all the moons
4 feet in diameter. Yeah, I mean, that'll just take up a lot of space. And after he gets pulled over a few times, he'll dump it.
Yeah.
It's like
I don't know what
moons
Martin really drives. I don't know why I picture a Yugo when I think of him driving around, but
not quite. But anyway, hey, thanks a lot, Alejandro.
All right, no problem. Thank you.
I appreciate you joining us live.
Yep, no problem. You guys have fun.
All right, and I'll be
Thank you.
talking to you next week.
Okay, talk to you soon.
All right, so this is the official welcome to Marc D'Antonio. You have FX Model. You're the chief video and image analyst for MUFON.
Yes.
You can tout about yourself a little bit. What's some more things? You've been on the show a number of times.
Yeah, I like doing your show in particular because you ask all the great questions, you know. But I do work for the Navy on occasion, and we are making, as Alejandro was talking about, these giant planets for these facilities all around the country right now, and that's it's turning out to be a 6 or 7 year project.
Wow.
So it's a long project with a lot of work.
Wow.
So,
now, just to let the listener know, if you're listening live, you can call in at 603-967-4030, or you can jump over to podcastufo.com and jump in the chat room and pose a question. Now, what I'd like to do this first hour of the show is talk about UFOTOG. We have a little object right here in front. We're going to talk about your prototype. Then I'd like to talk about UFOs in general and MUFON and all that stuff. And the second hour is going to be a little unconventional for what the podcast UFO listener is used to. I want to talk everything to do with astronomy, the cosmos, the Big Bang, dark matter. I want to really get into all that stuff. So if you don't like any of that stuff, you really don't have to listen to the second part of the show.
well, it is Dark Matter Radio, right?
Yeah, it's Dark Matter Radio Network, right. But anyway, so we're going to get into, first of all, you were doing something very similar to what UFO data or data.com. Very similar. You have a very similar plan. For the YouTube, this show is also on YouTube. People can listen to it. For the YouTube listener, this will be a video. So can you just lift that up, that unit right up? He has a prototype of this unit that has these. How many cameras are there on that?
There's 8 cameras on this one, and the cameras are extremely low-light cameras, and they're also very high resolution. They do 4K resolution each,
Wow.
which is a huge amount of resolution per camera.
Yep. And I see there's 2 solar panels.
Yeah, those have already been changed because they were just notionally put on there to illustrate where solar power would come from. But as it turns out, we're going to move them to the column because this thing is going to be 8 feet in the air. So on the column, the post that this thing is sitting on, we're going to put a big flat panel.
Oh, I got it. And this will be on an 8-foot pole. And about how many? Well, let's see. It's been over a year since we talked, and I had you on with Doug Trumbull.
Yep.
You're doing this together, and is there anything more you can talk about? What has happened since we last spoke?
Since we last spoke, we've actually designed the camera. There is one in existence, and the camera, as I said, very high resolution, extremely low light, and we have it already set up, so we're ready to put it to a circuit board. And we're just hunting down lenses that we're going to use because this camera also goes into the infrared. So that's a boon, a benefit.
Yep.
And to do that, we are going to need to use lenses that are not glass. So we're investigating different glass or different non-glass solutions to our lenses that allow in more energy so we can see this light energy better.
Let's see. There's a question up here. Have you had a chance to see and evaluate the UFO over Houston photo?
I've seen so many UFOs over Houston, I'm not sure which one they're talking about.
This is a recent one. I think that Alejandro just spoke of. I'll ask the guy in the chat room. This is a chat room question.
Oh, okay.
You should put. Let's see. While I pose the question, I'm going to ask you a question first.
Sure.
I talked about you're one of my favorite guests. I've always enjoyed having you on the show.
Well, thanks.
And you were very, very sick. I remember sending you an email, I think in May or something like that. You never responded, which was totally unlike you. And you were clinging on for life.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're so glad you made it, and you seemed in real good health. You're okay now.
I'm back.
You're back.
Yeah. I'm back from almost not being back.
That's right. It was real close.
Yeah, I had an infection in my heart valves, and they actually had to change my heart valves on Memorial Day. And you haven't lived until you see a hospital where there's just a skeleton staff, and you're supposed to go into a major surgery. And you're in a dark room in the pre-op prep area, which is normally hustling and bustling. And it's a dark room, and you're the only bed, and you're the only one there. And the surgeon comes over to you and says, "We're almost ready for you." And that's the last thing I remember. And then I didn't wake up until 5-8 days later because they had to put me into a coma because there was an unexpected turn of events during the surgery. And there were clots in the heart that got loose and went to my brain, causing 5 separate strokes. And they said that any one of those strokes could have done me in. So why I'm here, I have no idea. But I did wake up in June as a quadriplegic. I couldn't move. You couldn't move, and people, the nurses put something in your eyes to keep them moist. So they didn't even know you were conscious. Yeah, you know what? That's right. You know, when they put you into an induced coma and you're out for any period of time, they put this gel on your eyes to help keep them from drying out. Well, they put that in my eyes, and when I was in the induced coma, I wasn't in a coma at all. I was actually awake, and I could hear them talking about me. I could hear them saying to my family, "Well, he's probably going to be a quadriplegic and blind." You heard them say that? I heard them say that. And there I am lying there in this bed thinking, wait, I'm still here. I can function. I can hear everything you're saying to me. You know? And I thought the blindness was the gel in my eyes. This is what it means to be blind. Then a nurse came in and wiped the gel out to change it. And I could see, you know, my eyes were really messed up. I woke up with compound eye fly vision, where it's all... You see like a million things? A million different things, and little tiny pockets of, I would never wish that upon anyone, but boy, that's why flies always hit the window. Boom, 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 you know, because they've got this vision all over the place, I guess. But anyway, it was, that all alleviated, it all went away, and... I think it's like every person's nightmare to be stuck in a place like that where no one knows that you're. Oh my God! I'm so glad you're back and you have no idea what it's like to wake up in a body that doesn't work. Oh, I can't even imagine. And you can't. It's giving me goosebumps talking about it. You can't even scratch your itch. Jeez. You can't do anything, and you don't know whether it's going to change, but it did. Yeah, the part where you didn't know whether it was going to change. Yep. Oh my God. Yep. Okay. There was a question here on the message board. Are you aware of Christopher O'Brien? He has a similar strategy to collect UFO data in the San Luis Valley. I know Chris. Yeah. In fact, we've talked a couple times on his project, and when we get our cameras ready, Chris and I are going to talk, because I would love to collaborate with what he's doing anyway, because he has some unique and novel approaches to this subject. That's great. That's great. So... as far as... I just have to say... Yes. The thing is, you know, there's UFO data, there's UFOTOG. We've been doing ours for 2 or 3 years. UFO data shows up. You know, they're doing theirs. Chris O'Brien's doing his. This data and the results belong to humanity. It doesn't belong to any one of us. I love to hear you say that. Oh, no, it does. You know, Doug Trumbull and I are working on UFOTOG 2 with our science team and scientists from Lawrence Livermore Labs that are geniuses as far as we're concerned. And, you know, we have no monopoly on this data. We are going to share this data. We are going to make it available. And when Doug and I were on, we did mention that, too, as well, that this is humanity's data. I love hearing this. Now, did you have not heard from Leslie Kane or Marc Rodinger or anyone? I've tried to connect you two, but nothing's happening. Yeah, no, I didn't hear from them. But... interestingly, I was up at Doug's studio. We were working on a project. And up the driveway comes this little car, and out gets Leslie Kane. You know, and she comes up to say, Doug, I got a little thing to show you. And we did something for her right there. You know, this was a while ago? This was a while ago. Yeah. Mm-hmm. On the spur of the moment. It had nothing to do with UFO data or anything like that. Yeah. Or UFOTOG, for that matter. So, it was kind of interesting because Doug and Leslie are friends. Yep. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Well, I'd like to see some type of collaboration. I mean, it only makes sense. I
Yeah,
mean,
there's no competitors as far as we're
Yeah.
concerned. There's only collaborators, people that will collaborate with us.
Yeah. I
If
hope
they
everyone feels that way. Maybe that's the issue.
Yeah, if they choose not to, that's their thing. We're hoping to punch through that,
Yeah.
for the greater good for humanity's, answers
Right.
to whether, we're being visited or not.
Right. Now, is these are up on poles. How are they going to be monitored?
Well, let me first explain what they've got, because that'll tell you. Each one of these units is going to have a gamma ray detector, EMF detector, magnetic anomaly detector. This is important stuff, because now, if the camera sees nothing, we might see a gamma ray pop in, or we may see a magnetic change or a local gravity change in the area. Now, that's still cause for an alert, even if the camera doesn't see anything visually or in the infrared or the ultraviolet. So, we also have a GPS transmitter on board. This thing is going to send an alert to my smartphone in my pocket and the smartphone of everyone on its list the instant it sees something that it can rule out as a satellite, a plane, or a coyote trying to pee on our unit if it was on the ground.
So for how many units do you plan to have out there?
That's going to depend on our funding. We're talking to people right now. When I was in Los Angeles, we met with people that were interested in being part of this with us.
Are you funded yet? You're not funded yet, but it looks like you may be.
I can't say we're funded yet. No.
Yeah.
Right. But our mission has remained unchanged. Doug originated UFOTOG using a Humvee with a big giant theodolite, 300-400 pounds. It would come out of the Humvee's roof and very dramatically sweep the sky and turn this 400-pound system of telescopes and sensors around in less than a second. Okay, so you didn't want to be in its way. It would knock you right out.
Now, is that machine still?
Oh, that machine's still in existence. Absolutely.
Yeah. And is Doug on this coast or is he on the West Coast?
Well, he grew up in Hollywood, Los Angeles, but actually he moved here over 35 years ago. So he's only less than an hour from me. And we hooked up 5 years ago to do movies and special effects and hunt UFOs together.
Yeah, I was talking to an entertainment lawyer the other day on a ferry on Long Island, and he basically said the only two places you can be in the United States is either New York or California to do entertainment. Speaking of that, I just want to tell a quick reaction. I got in a conversation with this guy who was a lot of fun and everything. And I said something about my podcast, and he goes, "Oh, what type of podcast do you do?" And I said, "Well, it's a little esoterical. It's on UFOs." And this was his phrase to me is what I thought was very interesting. He goes, "I really shouldn't tell you this, but I had an incredible UFO sighting." He described it. It was but I just thought that phrase alone, "I really shouldn't tell you this." He was thinking because he's a lawyer or what? I don't know what he was thinking.
Well, maybe he was just self-censoring, Because
yeah,
I really shouldn't tell you this because then you might think I'm a nut if you want to finish the sentence, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what I get, too. I get a lot of that.
Well, this is an interesting UFO sighting, and I always like to hear interesting ones. They saw it. It was out of Long Island. They were in a pool. His siblings and him were in a pool, and this thing was out over the ocean, over the I don't know if the bay or the sound or what, but it shot down a very bright beam of light into the water. And a bunch of other people saw it. There was people around, not just them. Yep. And then when the beam retracted, the thing shot off. And when it did, there was like a mist coming up where the beam of light was. So I asked him, I said, was the beam of light a strange color? Did it look, that's a lot of times you hear about the beam of light is unusual. And he said, no, it just looked like a really bright beam of light shot right down.
No.
And then he said his sister posted something on Facebook and the posting erased. And so he goes, is there a possible government cover-up? I said, I don't know.
That's the place everybody loves to go. But
yes, yeah.
Let me tell you how a logical investigator would approach that particular case, just real quick.
Yeah.
You see a beam of light aiming down into the ocean. The first thing you're going to do is listen for a sound. You may not hear it.
Oh, yes, no sound.
Right,
yeah.
Of course. There's never sound.
Yeah.
Well, that's because it might have been far away. Mm-hmm. However, and sound over the water doesn't always carry. You may not hear it, ever.
Depends on the wind.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, that beam of light originated with something. You say, okay, let's assume it's some vehicle. What might it be that we make? Well, it's not an airplane because it looks stationary, say. How about a helicopter? Okay, let's work with that. Let's start with helicopter. Let's try to explain it as a helicopter with a searchlight beam. Now, if it was a searchlight beam aiming straight down, okay, it would probably be relatively close to the water. All right, maybe 100, 200 feet up above the water, whatever. Now, if it was, when it was doing its thing, what else is it doing? The wind is hitting the water and driving up a mist. So when they shut the lights off, now you see a mist. And you might not even see the helicopter. So that's a possibility.
It is a possibility.
It doesn't mean that's what it was.
Yeah.
It just means that you have to look at the logical explanations first. Rule them out one by one.
Right. I agree.
And then what
I'm
you're left
you.
with is the unknown.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah. Don't jump right to aliens.
Right.
As they say. Now, if you're listening live, please do jump. We have a low turnout so far in the chat room, which is unusual. I'm not sure what's going on. There's only 15 of you in there, and we know there's a lot of you listening. So if you want to jump in, podcastufo.com, and put your comments up there or ask some questions. And going back to UFOTOG on these units, someone posted up there, why don't you use like a Kickstarter or UFundMe? And also someone wanted to know about what the cost per unit. Have you figured that out yet?
Well, the ideal cost per unit would be $2,000 or $3,000. But most likely the first unit's going to cost a lot more than that. Then we're going to work on miniaturization and getting all the other ducks in a row, so to speak, in order to get these things cheaper.
Yeah.
Now, that means making our own circuit boards and doing that kind of thing, which we can do.
Yeah.
That's not a problem. So,
would you farm that out, or would you actually do the work yourself?
Well, we would actually have someone make the circuit boards for us.
Yeah.
But we let them go into their own little, bidding wars as to who can do it better, easier, and then we'll test one of their circuits, and if it works, we'll mass produce it. That's something Doug would be involved in because he has a lot of connections in the camera industry. And we have a lot of technology partners that are working with us. But none of them have the equipment we need, so we have to build it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate, but that's the way it goes.
Now, is everything weatherproof, really, like for any type of weather?
Well, nothing is weatherproof, okay?
Resistant.
With acid rain and pollutants, you really care about where you put these things.
Mm-hmm.
If you put them on a post in San Diego, you are going to get a healthy amount of baking from any sunlight as well as acid rain during the wet months, during the June gloom, so to speak. So we have to be careful. But that really applies to our lens systems on the camera. And initially, for Phase 1, we're going to involve MUFON with our projects so that they, with their boots on the ground, field investigators and state directors, we're going to have them go out into the field and work on doing maintenance for us on these units.
Oh. Now, I know. I think I asked you how many units do you plan. You said that depends on funding. Just a rough idea of, and where would they be stationed?
Well, let's say what we need. Okay,
Yep.
Not in terms of money, but just in terms of units. We see these things being a mile apart, set up in a triad, a triangle. Okay, at a mile apart, if Unit A sees something in the sky, the first thing it's going to do is confer with Unit B and say, "Do you see it too?" Basically.
Mm-hmm.
If Unit B sees it, then we can triangulate the altitude, the speed, everything about it, and calculate its orbit, basically, and figure out, is that a satellite? Or is it something much nearer to the Earth? And so that kind of thing is going to be built into the system. We won't even get an alert if it's a satellite that it catches, because it'll know it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's dependent on two things. Triangulation to be able to get its altitude, and also from a single platter, we call these platters. In a single platter case, where it looks up into the sky, sees something, it can still consult the database and say, am I supposed to be seeing something right at that point in the sky? And if so, we will still alert on it.
Oh, you mean like something like the space station flying over or something like that?
That's right.
Yeah.
A satellite.
Uh-huh.
And that's important because we have to get all the data we can from these units that's usable. And we don't want the data that's not. In other words, if you see a light coming toward this thing, but you also get a transponder squawk coming from that thing, we know it's an aircraft. We don't even alert on that. Of course, if the aircraft does a 90-degree turn and goes wildly up into space, we'd want to know that. And that's the kind of thing that we have to work into the software.
Shane from Australia says, this is serious stuff the UFO field needs, and I agree.
Thank you, Shane. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. And how many other people are on board besides you and Doug? Are there, you said scientists are interested?
Yeah, I have a number of scientists that are on board with us that are actively building components. People in Las Vegas, people in Arizona, people in California. And so we have a number of people that are working with us on this. Mm-hmm. Now, currently, Doug and I and one other, our chief scientist, we're making all the choices as to what kind of units we want and that kind of thing so far. We haven't actually involved other people to get a uniform agreement on everything we want to do yet. Because we know what we want to do, and we know that what we'll do will suffice. But Chris O'Brien, for instance, he has some great ideas. Mm-hmm. He might change our direction with a sentence, but it won't change us entirely. We have a plan. You can see our unit right in front of us here, spinning on a little turntable. Uh-huh. Okay, this thing is fairly far along in our development plan. And so we understand its power requirements, the consumption requirements, the camera requirements, the requirements for making a GPS connection, because we're actually doing GPS bounce when we send signals up to a satellite. We're sending them to a GPS satellite.
Wow.
And we're bouncing our messages off a GPS satellite and then down to our smartphones so we can get an alert wherever we are. Phase 1 will mean that if anyone wants to see the data, they're going to have to go out to the unit and take it off the unit. In Phase 2, we're going to log into the unit and download it from an FTP server.
This, to me, just everything you're describing seems much more involved than the $2,000 or $3,000 you're talking about. It just sounds...
I know it sounds like it's expensive, but you have to understand that we're building the camera. Okay, we're designing it. It's like how much do we want to sell them for? That's our call. How much is the chip going to cost? The materials. That's much less than the actual cost of the thing you buy. So again, this is humanity's data. We can't give them away, but we're going to try and pack as much into them as possible. Now, the writing of the software, that's a volunteer effort. People are volunteering to write the software. So
yeah, the software sounds a little tricky.
Yeah, well, it isn't. It isn't. There's people out there already. I met several at the MUFON symposium in Los Angeles, September, and they are doing some very cool things with tracking software that they wrote. And I'm very interested in talking to them some more and finding out more about what they're doing. But the fact is, as I said, we want to make this thing low cost so that anyone can get a hold of them if they want to.
When you mean anyone, do you mean people that want to do research themselves?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And the only caveat is that once it goes online and starts recording data, we can't be excluded from that loop.
I see.
We are in that loop.
So I have a mountaintop in Maine. If I wanted to put this on the mountaintop on a platform I have that's way up in the air that you can see big open sky, I could talk to you about that.
Are you asking for a unit? Come on now, Martin. Well, I'm sure that that is attractive.
I'm not asking for a discount.
No, I know, but that is an attractive prospect. Uh-huh. I know that we're going to be doing testing in Arizona with the units.
Now, what about someone just put up on the message board? What about hotspots?
Well, that's the whole idea of having these ready to ship. Mm-hmm. Okay, we want to have a bunch of these in reserve so that we can send several triads, that is 3 units and several of them.
Because each is going to be spaced in a mile triangle.
Right, and that gives us the maximum coverage for doing a triangulation and maximizes the likelihood of being able to triangulate an object in the sky. And we want to have several of these out available, ready to go. So if someone says, "Whoa, we're getting a whole bunch of UFOs in Minnesota," where? Right here in the Twin Cities, okay, or Minneapolis, St. Paul area. Okay, well, we're going to send you 2 triads, and we'll instruct you how to set them up and how to connect them. And once you install it, you push a little button and wait for all the lights to turn green. And now they're ready. You can walk away.
Wow.
We'll make it that simple.
Wow, nice.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you know who Chase Kletzky is.
Of course I know Chase.
Oh, okay. So Chase was telling me down in Tennessee there's like this guy. He's a race car driver. She doesn't want to say who he is. But there's a triangle going over his cornfields quite often. And is that something like, if you know of a situation like that, is that something that you will initiate, putting one of these 3 of these units out in a spot like that? Or is it all...
Without question.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, without question. See, if someone claims that, okay, the first thing we want to do is test the claim. Reproduce the data. Our scientific units don't get fooled by depth perception. They don't get fooled by personality quirks that might make you, think you see aliens where you don't. Okay, they're not fooled by anything related to human nature. They're by rote devices to capture data, multiple sources of data at the same time per sighting. So if someone says, "I saw a bright light and then it winked out and then I saw this blue flash," okay, if it's not on our data, then I can't say whether you saw that or not. I can just say the data didn't support your assertion.
Now, last time I did a show with had Leslie Kane and Marc Rodiger on, and we were talking about this in the units. Ray Stanford was listening. He's probably listening right now. He listens to most of the shows. Yep. Thank you, Ray, if you're listening. He wrote me right away and said, what about what I was doing the same thing back in the early 1970s. He had $2 million worth of equipment back then, which was huge. This was out in the desert, and he still has, some of this equipment. Now, Ray is he's in his 70s. I hope you don't mind me saying that, Ray. But he still wants to get active.
He still wants cool dinosaur tracks.
Does he ever? Yeah. But Ray really wants to get involved. Now, someone like Ray, how would you involve someone like him that really has a passion for this, that really wants the information, and also has a background where he has used this type of equipment before?
See, I'd have Ray contact us, and I would, put him in touch with Doug, and we would have a conference call together and discuss the potential input from Ray, and see if he can help us.
Yeah.
If he wants to be involved, if this was a community effort and it was a crowd-funded effort, then it would be a little bit different than the way it is now. We chose not to go the crowd-funded route. In fact, Doug and I talked about crowdfunding 2 years ago for this. But we chose not to do it because there were several high-end people that Doug wanted to talk to beforehand.
For investing.
Yeah. Because it's much better dealing with one person.
Yes.
Than having to deal with 300 or 4,000.
And there can be control issues as well.
Yeah, and I personally believe that if you're going to contribute to a crowd-funded effort, you should have some say in what happens to that effort.
Yeah, we have a couple of things. For the sake of accuracy and truthfulness, ask him how to explain the satellite bounce thing.
Oh, you mean what we're doing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's actually just a GPS relay, and anyone can do it. In fact, around-the-world sailors use these systems all the time to send GPS messages out to show people where they are at any point in their track. And we're going to take the base unit that does that, and we're going to add our own custom messaging to it. I mean, that's exactly what we're doing. There's no mystery there, nothing hidden, nothing to hide.
Okay. And hang on just 1 minute. There was another question here. And it's... All right. Basically, they just wanted to know about how it bounced off the satellite. And so, yes, someone wanted to know if there was any type of radar. The radar is pretty intense. You can't really put it on a small unit.
Yeah,
right?
no, radar. We thought about radar. Well, we actually thought about sonar for detecting low-level intrusion to the sites. The trouble is that takes up energy, and we're going to have a battery being charged by a solar panel during the day, and it has to make it through the night.
So this, if you have sonar, it's going to be beeping constantly unless it can be activated.
Correct. It could be motion. There could be a motion detector, okay, and then you could map out the trajectory of something then using sonar. The trouble is it would get set off all the time, maybe by bats or large insects.
Right.
We don't want any of that.
Yeah.
Because anything close to the unit is nothing we're going to really be interested in unless it's a gigantic hovering silver disc with gray aliens with big black almond-shaped eyes saying, "What's that, Frank?" "I don't know."
All right. Well, I thought we could change gears and talk about now. When you were out of commission, when did you get back into commission where you could actually do some MUFON work?
When I was in rehab, I was relearning how to walk. I was relearning how to talk. My voice was like this. I couldn't talk, so I had to reshape the words again. I had to relearn. So in July, I came home. This past July, after having no movement in early June, by July 2nd, I was walking with a walker and I came home. And I threw away the walker a week later and started making my way precariously across the room to the wall that seemed like 1,000 miles away. And when I got there, I held on like, yes, I made it, and I didn't fall. And to this date, I haven't fallen once, which is great. But that took, from the time it all happened to the time I got back into commission fully for MUFON, I set a goal that by September, I would attend the MUFON Symposium and do my main speaker talk.
I was surprised when you were going to do that.
I surprised myself because I wasn't sure I could do it because I couldn't talk very well. I couldn't say the word words. It was coming out woods, So I sat there all day long going, words, and I re-taught my mouth how to shape out the words.
Wow.
And then any word that was giving me trouble, I did that. So then I went out to the symposium, and I taught for one day. I taught the field investigator training. Then the next day I did my main speaker talk, and it went very well. Better than I thought it would for me, health-wise. But my voice was giving out because I have a paralyzed vocal cord even now. And I had to have vocal cord surgery a few weeks ago to fix that.
Are you good for the show? Am I going to have to finish the show?
I am indeed. I have a lower vocal register than I've ever had. So it sounds better, but
actually, when did you? And I have one. I want to jump. We're going to have to jump back.
Also, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So in September is really when I started back into MUFON, but I was doing investigations and other things, like a month prior to that. And in August, I was doing stuff.
Yeah.
But my eyes were still not. I wasn't able to see properly yet.
Yeah.
By
that's
August.
pretty important.
Yeah, and so by September, it had leveled out to the point where I can now read. I can do my texts on the phone and messages, and I can. Actually, before you arrived, I put the finishing touches on the last chapter of my book. So that's I actually wrote.
And your book
chapters.
is when's it due out, and what's the name?
The name is The Populated Universe, and it discusses exoplanet technology, how we find planets around other stars, what it means to us, and whether that means that alien beings exist and could have found us.
Oh, good. Because we're going to be talking about that in the second hour.
I know we are, and that's going to be great.
Yeah. So Phil had asked a question. I don't want to... Phil's been a great supporter of the show all the way from way back. And he asked, going back to the UFOTOG transmitter, does it have a directional antenna on it, too?
At the most, it has a... No, it's omni. It listens in all directions. It sees in all directions at the same time. It has separate cameras that are high resolution, so they take out a small patch of sky that allow you to get, zoom in with some resolution, so that you don't have to worry about, fuzziness and pixelation. The antenna that's on there that's omnidirectional, really the one antenna, is the cell phone antenna, because it's actually got a track phone built into it.
Huh.
Yeah, that way we can call it and ask it to tell us if it's okay. Yeah, it's a self-diagnostic thing.
How about
and that's actually not hard to do. Those kinds of programs already exist for using a cell phone to connect to something and just do a diagnosis.
I see. Anyone can call on the show if you're listening live at 603-967-4030. Now, and we will be talking, someone asked about the exoplanets, and we'll be talking about that in hour 2 coming right up fairly soon, only in about 10 minutes. We're going to start talking about all that type of thing. Now, since you've been back, who was taking care of the photo analysis and video analysis work while you were gone, while you were out?
In Southern California, there's a woman named Cindy Costello, and she has been working with me on photo analysis for a long time. And I asked Jan Harzan at headquarters to include her. We also have another photo analyst, Sam Falvo, who is part of our team. And the idea is that we want to make a video and photo analysis unit. Okay, we want to create enough people so that if a problem occurs, like it happened to me, we don't lose the full expertise of a photo analysis unit. I have to say, though, to be a photo analyst doesn't mean you know how to use cameras. It doesn't mean you just know astronomy. You have to know how human nature works to understand psychology of what people see when they look in the sky. You have to understand how the human body works so you can understand why our eyes are separated by a few inches and what that means for depth perception, especially at night against a black sky. It was as big as a football field. It was a mile up. That's useless information, in fact.
Yeah.
Because there's no way to prove it or show it, because the human being is not capable at all of making those determinations. I hate to say it, but it's absolutely true.
Some people say Marc D'Antonio, he's a debunker of. I've heard that said before.
Alejandro said that,
and I don't. What I think and how I take you is you're taking a scientific look and a logical look, and everything you just said just now to me makes total sense. Like when I saw the object that I saw, I guessed it was 300 feet or so in the air. It could be 1,000 feet. I don't know. The reason I don't know is because it was kind of up and over, and there was nothing to judge by. It was near nothing that I could judge the size of it and how far up it was.
It could have been a large object farther away or a small object much closer, and we run into that all the time.
Yeah.
You also have to understand, for instance, earth science in order to do this, because you have to understand geological processes that can generate lights on the earth and cause atmospheric phenomena. It really becomes complicated. It's not just understanding cameras. And, yes, by the way, you have to understand cameras intimately and how they work.
Now, there was a article that Open Minds had up, and I talked with Alejandro on his show, I believe, and it looked like a triangle, but you could tell it was not a lens flare. It was inside the lens itself. What do you call that?
Well, a lens flare is something that occurs inside the lens.
Okay, so they called it something else, like a
internal lens reflection, maybe.
Yeah, reflection. That's what it was. Internal reflection.
Yeah, what happens is a lens is built in a very purposeful way to take as much light in as it can get, and not let stray light that may bounce around on the inside from impeding the view or impeding the quality of what it captures. Now, each lens has these little round black rings in them. They're called baffles. And they're designed mathematically to prevent the stray light from bouncing farther than just one wall bounce off of a lens inside. If it does bounce more than once, it's very likely that you're going to see it on the finished picture.
Now, what about also there's UFOs on Google Maps, Google Earth, all that, and those are all the pink UFOs, as they call them. I'm sure.
I had that case. I did that case, and that kind of went away as soon as we showed the same pink UFO was superimposed on someone's lawn. Okay, below the
not
car.
A flamingo.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was actually just the lens flare from the system they used.
Yeah.
You're actually seeing the pink color of the lens coatings being transmitted through the lens flare.
Sure. Have you? We've got like 6 or 8 minutes or so left. Have you, since you've been back in action for MUFON, what would you say? Can you talk about some notable cases that you've investigated?
Well, actually, there's a historical case where, it's from the 70s, I believe. And I know this is historical, but I like this. The car that was involved in this was actually is in the museum.
Oh yes, I just pulled that up on a blogger.
It looks like a Grand Torino.
1979, I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this UFO object actually put a hole in this guy's windshield.
Val. I'm trying to remember the officer's name.
Yes, exactly. And he was a
Val Johnson,
officer of the law.
Yeah.
That's right. And I actually thought that was really cool. And it doesn't have anything to do with being back at MUFON now, but it's a case that I just had never heard about. I mean, go figure. I've been in MUFON since 1971, and it started in 1969.
Yeah.
So I was 11 when I joined this group.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. So that case, does Val ever talk about this?
I saw an interview with him, actually, at one point. I don't remember. But I saw the car itself, a photo of the car with the hole in the windshield, and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
What we could do now with that car, because we could go after that car with, special devices to detect radiation and magnetism that might have changed the structure of the metal.
Why doesn't anyone do that?
Well, we didn't know about this. I didn't know about this.
Oh, so this may happen.
Well, I don't know. I would like to see it happen.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk to our MUFON head of technology.
Now, when someone has something like this comes up, does MUFON have the funding to actually involve like scientific research and something like this?
Well, actually, we do have a STAR team and a team of people that is on standby to go out to a real hot spot. And there have been a couple of cases like that, but none to date that I remember, in recent time. But I think that the problem is that, MUFON's a volunteer organization. If they say to you, okay, Martin, you've got to get on a plane right now. Oh, I can't. I got to do a radio show. I can't just walk out. We have a lot of that going on, where people are volunteering their time graciously and wonderfully. But it is volunteer time, and you can't lose sight of the fact that these are volunteers.
Yeah. Does that situation happen where someone says on MUFON, can you get on a plane and go, like now, type of thing?
Well, that was the idea behind our STAR team, which is a rapid response team. Yeah. And there was only a few people in MUFON originally that were members of that team because they were the most flexible and available and most knowledgeable. Okay?
Right. I see.
Other people were then made STAR team members, and that's going through some changes. And so there still is meant to be a rapid response of sorts. And I'm not even sure if I'm on that list. I probably am, for what I can do. But it doesn't matter because I can do what I do here in my office. In this very cool office.
Oh, I love this office. I know I've described it before, but I really do feel like I'm in a ship. I'm waiting for it to rock back and forth a little bit.
Well, that's why the floor is uneven. When you walk on the floor, you kind of feel uneven, and that's what made me decide it was going to be a ship, is because I couldn't get the concrete level.
Oh, so that...
No lie.
That was it? Really?
No lie.
Wow. How about that? So how about any videos that are contemporary videos that have come up? Anything interesting lately that you've looked at?
Yeah, as Alejandro said, we saw all the rocket launches on the West Coast. And, the thing is, people have to understand, here on the East Coast, okay, where we are, when a rocket takes off, it goes out over the ocean. But on the West Coast, it goes out over the land. The rockets head up and go east. Because they're using the rotation of the Earth to help them out. Okay. So they're already going 1,000+ miles an hour on the launch pad. So as soon as they take off and they're free of the Earth, they're going 1,000 miles an hour. And now they only have to accelerate to 17,000 miles an hour to make orbit. 17,000 more miles an hour to get to orbit. they don't have to do that extra 1,000. That saves fuel. And believe it or not, that is a measurable quantity that makes good financial sense.
Mm-hmm.
So on the West Coast, if a rocket takes off from, say, Vandenberg, it's going to head out eastward, and people are going to see it. And if they take off after sunset or just before dawn, the sun illuminates the plume of the rocket well up into the upper atmosphere.
So there's no real good time to make a secret rocket launch. A cloudy day.
Actually, you could make a secret rocket launch at noon, because then, if you look at the sun, it's going to blind. It's going to be blinding,
Yeah.
But it all depends on launch windows. Those rockets are launched in such a way that they will achieve orbit at a particular time, particular place. They know every single, right to the last meter position that these rockets will be in when they enter orbit. It's amazing how this works.
Okay. Matthew, you've asked a couple of times in the chat room, and Mark has not had a chance to look at that, Houston. But I'll tell you what, during the break, I know you sent a link. Please send another link, and I'm going to show him the link real quick while we're on this music break coming up. And we'll talk about that briefly in hour 2, and hour 2 is going to be reserved for all types of questions I have about astronomy and the cosmos.
Oh, I'm scared.
Yeah. All right, so hang in there, everyone. And Matthew, go ahead and post that if you would.
I'll be happy to look at it, Matthew.
And hang in. We'll be right back right after this music break.
No bones about it, says NASA. That supposed thigh bone discovered by the Mars Curiosity rover, it's just a rock. The space agency killjoys, who, granted, could have easily just issued a no comment and kept laughing to themselves through the Johnson Space Center break room, cleared up the whole mess by dropping some science on their skeptics. Quote, if life ever exists around Mars, scientists expect there to be small, simple life forms called microbes. Mars likely never had enough oxygen in its atmosphere and elsewhere to support more complex organisms. Thus, large fossils are not likely. We're not convinced, though. If that thigh bone is just a rock, then how do you explain this space iguana? Or these dinosaurs?
I'm not even sure
or this,
what that music clip
okay, that is just
from
a rock.
Carrie Lloyd Whitehouse.
But for more on what is clearly a NASA cover-up of the most important scientific discovery of this or any other age, check out Cron.com. Is there life on Mars?
Going on. But while we took the music break here, we looked over these images that keeps coming up in the chat room, the UFO over Houston. And Mark, what is your first thought on that? You want to know if the vehicle is moving. It looks like it is.
Yeah, if it's a moving vehicle, then we
download the 120 Sports app right now.
But it could be.
Let's get to the morning meme. Time to pay it off a little bit here, and let's talk about it because it was a good one this morning, guys.
It was.
Oh, really?
It was. We had our take on this.
Yeah.
This had to have been the winner, right?
Houston.
Color me bad. We set the bar pretty high, and sometimes, we're better than the runners. And today may be one of those days.
I told my daughter I would do something better than hang her art on the fridge.
Right.
If that was true, that would be cute, and we'd like the shirt.
Right.
Like Kim Kardashian has a bag that has drawings from her daughter.
I'm sorry, everyone. What has happened was this is pretty funny. So Matt sent me a link to this Houston video. So I opened the video to show Mark D'Antonio here, and guess what? Some type of video started playing on that web page. Thanks, Matt. I'll remember you. So apologize, everyone, to the listener out there hearing that video that just played. I couldn't figure out what was going on. All right. So you need to know more information, basically.
Yeah,
to
I would
something like that out.
When I look at a video like that, of course, it was not fluid motion. It was stuttering around, and I wasn't sure if I was actually seeing a video or a set of photos. But it looked like a video that was not playing fully right. But my first thought is that, well, if the vehicle is moving, we could be looking at the reflection of lights in the window of the vehicle as the vehicle goes by. We see this all the time.
Yep. There was that video, and I think I want to say over the Loch Ness, where it was a double-paned window, and it looked like dual UFOs, and it was actually a hanging lamp in the room.
Exactly. I just did a case like that where when you zoomed in on the image seen in the view, you could see that it was actually ghosted. It had two images. In that case, you're seeing the direct reflection of the light fixture behind you and the reflection of the light fixture on the inside surface of the other end of the window pane, the thickness of the window pane.
Yep.
So you get a double reflection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. All right, everyone. So now we're going to shift gears, and we're going to talk. I wanted to talk to an astronomer like Mark, and I'm going to ask him a bunch of strange questions, and you can call in if you'd like at 603-967-4030. You can pose a message up on the chat room. If you're listening live, you can jump in at podcastufo.com. Go right into the chat room. So here we go. I'm just going to ask. So the universe is expanding and expanding and expanding, but we're due to collide with Andromeda sooner or later.
Yeah.
How could that be? And where is everything expanding out to?
Well, that's a good question to ask because it's not exactly true.
Okay.
We're not expanding exactly. We're actually accelerating outward now. In the early days of astronomy, you had the steady state theory, the expanding universe theory, and the closed universe theory, where you thought that if the universe was expanding, it'd expand forever. Yay! Or if it was a closed universe, it would expand out to a certain point, and the mass of the universe would then pull everything back together, and boom, you start a whole new primordial superatom cycle again. However, there was also the steady state theory where, hi, I'm just a galaxy sitting here. I've never done a thing in my life. This is what I'm doing. And then just everything is steady. Those three theories are pretty much going to go out the window. We know it's not a closed universe. We know it's not a steady state universe. We have thought it was an expanding universe. And we're right. It is expanding. However, the problem is we found that the universe is expanding outward at a faster and faster rate.
Right.
That makes no sense.
Mm-hmm.
That implies that there is a mass, a negative mass on the other end of the universe that's pulling our universe out. Almost as if the pressure is being reduced on the outside of a balloon and it begins to inflate. And you reduce that pressure faster and faster and it inflates faster. Well, we're accelerating outward at an ever-increasing rate. This is due to the mysterious dark energy. Now, dark energy, again, is a quantity we only know by what we see. We can't actually quantify it and say, this is the amount of the dark energy we're seeing. We can only say, this is what it looks like is happening to us. Now, whether that's really happening and whether dark energy really exists is very important. Because if it does exist, it implies that there are some more propulsion concepts that can live within that whole world that will allow us to get to the stars in days, not tens of thousands of years. Ooh, now that's interesting. Okay. Now, the other half of your question was the Andromeda Galaxy. Now, the Andromeda Galaxy is 2 million light years away. That means the light we're seeing from it left 2 million years ago. Now, the reason that we might be going toward the Andromeda Galaxy is because we are gravitationally bound to the possibility, well, we're possibly gravitationally bound to the Andromeda Galaxy in such a way that we're accelerating toward it locally as we're all expanding out in the universe. It really isn't that big a deal because it's not a real mind mess to think about this.
Can we see, is our galaxy itself expanding outwardly?
No, the galaxy is sort of an island universe
It's staying
of stars.
within the gravitational pull
of itself.
Of itself, with the black hole or whatever
Right.
it's keeping it together.
This major black hole at the center of the universe, the center of our universe, which is our galaxy, right? Okay. The center of our universe has always been the Earth.
Yeah.
Okay, until Copernicus came along, and then, of course,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right, now that's an interesting. Now, okay, so the Big Bang we think happened like 13.7 or 13.8 billion years ago.
Yeah, it's a 14 billion-year-old universe.
Why did it wait so long to happen? I bet you never asked that before.
Is that the question you're asking?
No. The question I have is,
well,
okay,
don't you understand, right? I mean, the Zargons had to have the universe at a certain point in time, and there was a backup of the other universes. And by the time ours came along, hey, well, it's like a doctor's waiting room. It took a while to get in there. Okay, you're next. Go. Boom. Thank you. Next.
Okay. So, you always hear the question, what was before the Big Bang and all that. I'm not going to ask that question, but I'm going to ask this. Do you think that time started at then in the Big Bang?
Well, light didn't even exist at that point. There's another one for you to ponder. Okay, light came along and photons came along, hundreds of thousands of years after the Big Bang. So people think the Big Bang was an explosion, but you didn't see anything. So there's something for you to think about. Now, as far as time's a human construct. Time didn't happen until we came around, okay? Now, as far as the passage of time in the universe, from the time the Big Bang started, see how I said that sentence? From the time the Big Bang started, that's a conceptual concept that helps us. Okay.
But all right, when I hear the phrase that time started when the Big Bang, I've heard people say that, astronomers say that. But to me, how can anything start without time?
Exactly. That's a human follow-up, though.
It is.
See, that's a mental thing for you because...
Are you calling me mental?
I am calling you mental. No,
okay.
Not at all, because I'm right here with you. The problem, Martin, is that the universe has no concept of time. That's a human construct. And the universe doesn't understand when we say time started at the Big Bang. Because certainly things were happening at some level before the Big Bang.
But where?
Exactly. Now, here's another thing for you. The human mind cannot comprehend a billion of anything.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
I have a chapter in my book called The Problem with the Numbers, which discusses this very thing, how the human mind is incapable of knowing or working with large numbers.
Once it's over 1,000,
That's exactly what I say in the book. Is after over 1,000, you
have...
Oh,
do you really say that?
Yeah. Up to 1,000, we're kind of okay, but then, it's like, and the rest of you, you don't know because there's so many more. And you just say, well, all those things. The trouble is, the human mind has such limits, okay, that if we try to imagine an infinite number of things, or as Carl Sagan would say, an infinite number of things, okay, then we would say that infinity is something that we could understand, but we can't. Yeah. So when you say, what happened before the Big Bang, and is the universe infinite, our mind just goes, pops, and sags down to the ground like an old balloon. There's nothing left. We don't have that conceptual ability to imagine infinity. Or the time before the Big Bang. Because to us, the universe is a thing that exists. We can't understand, or we don't understand, what nothing is. We have no concept for that.
Yeah, it is. I totally agree. I don't have a concept of it. You think about, you're talking about time, and when we're talking in billions of years, like, for instance, it's not inconceivable that Mars had intelligent civilizations on it 1 billion years ago. These are just things that there's possibilities. We can say these things a lot can happen, and say we're around for, what is it, how many billion years or so?
Yeah, 4.6 or so.
Somewhere around there. But 2 billion years in, something could have happened that we haven't discovered yet, a fossil
or that we may never see, because you have to remember that the Earth
like vulcanizing
and tectonic activity.
Yep.
And whatever was deposited on the tectonic plate, be it a crashed spacecraft,
yep,
or whatever,
be mowed over.
Right, subduction zones are going to pull it under, and hey, that spacecraft gets recycled.
Now there was some. This is really going out there, probably fringy, but there were some spheres found. Have you ever seen those things about those spheres found, like they think are over 1 billion years old?
Are they tektites?
I don't know, and I don't even want to get into it because it's probably way out there. And I'm not saying that they're anything. I just, they look very human-made, but I'm sure there's a natural.
Well, just remember the natural shape that the universe likes is a sphere.
That's right.
So if something is formed in a vacuum out in space, it's going to become or try to approach
all gravity
spherical shape.
Yep. All right. So another thing I wanted to ask you, I want to talk about black holes. They intrigue me. What's inside of a black hole?
Okay, this goes to the concept of not understanding the human, how human minds, or the capabilities of the human mind. Not you, but in general. When people say, what's inside a black hole? My answer is an infinitely small point, a singularity. And you're going to look at me and say, what? What do you mean infinitely small? What's an infinitely small point? Well, it's a little teeny tiny. The bottom line is a singularity is a construct that explains what we observe. And massive stars, if they don't explode into a supernova, they may begin to contract. And when they die, when they use up all their fuel, they start to contract. Stars are in equilibrium, okay? They have as much radiant energy pushing out as gravity pulling in, so they maintain their shape and size for the most part. But when they stop radiating a lot, they can start to shrink. And at a certain mass, these stars will shrink and shrink and shrink and shrink and go right down to black hole status. Not a supernova, not a red giant like our sun's going to do, which will then shrink into a white dwarf, but shrink right down beyond the limit that puts them into black hole territory. And this makes, then they could go right down to an infinitely small point. Hard to believe that the mass of a star could go down into a tiny little point.
Physically, let me just ask you this. Okay, we all, people looking into molecular structure, the atom has so much space in it between the electrons and the neutrons and the... I heard someone... scientists say if all the people in the world could be put on an apple, if all their, the space inside of the atoms were squished. Is this what happens in a black hole? Does everything get squished down within the atoms and forced closer to the nucleus?
I mean, that's sort of true, except for the fact that you have so much mass in a star that the matter goes beyond becoming what's called degenerate matter. It actually gets compressed in a way that the human mind we really can't talk about it in a way that makes any sense.
But it is matter.
It is matter that's being compressed down to nothing. That's right. The gravity of the star collapses on itself.
Then up on the message board, someone's asking, then all this goes down to an infinite point, then why is it called a supermassive black hole?
Because the black hole is sucking in other matter. Mm-hmm. And as it does so, now here's the other thing too about black holes. They evaporate over time. They're not permanent. They're going to go away. And this evaporation, we have seen in other galaxies where we look at certain areas of the galaxy, we see black holes. And I'm not going to lose sight of that question.
But it must take so long to...
Oh, yeah. The evaporation rate is slow. But if we were an advanced race, we could approach the event horizon of a black hole, that no man's land where if you go past that, you're never getting out. Mm-hmm. And we're going to find all kinds of radiation coming off at us, namely Hawking radiation, if it exists. And this energy, black holes are rotating too. and they have strong magnetic fields. So this energy can be utilized by an advanced civilization for power. A civilization, for instance, that is going to try and ply the stars with a starship. Okay? You would use that level of energy in order to generate a warp bubble around your ship to make sure that you could do what Miguel Alcubierre called the Alcubierre drive in 1994. That would get us to Alpha Centauri in 5 days.
Now, I've heard before that all the energy in the entire universe is finite. It was all at once, all created at once, and it's all. It can't be taken away, or it's there,
right?
Basically.
Energy,
so how this is just a different form of use is what you're.
Oh, it's all
theories.
It's all transitions. It's all transitions from one form of energy to another.
Yeah.
A black hole spinning, a heavyweight black hole spinning, has the mass of the original star plus whatever else it sucks in.
And it does. So there's one I want to talk to you about that's going on for maybe like 100 million more years. Seen as the largest explosion since the Big Bang. I want to talk about that in a minute. A couple of questions also on the message board, but I want to ask, does every single galaxy that we're aware of have a black hole in the center? Galactic center?
We don't know for sure, but it's hypothesized that the cores of these galaxies are what they are and look like they do because there's a black hole in the center of them. But that's a little too convenient for me, because I do believe that mutual gravitational attraction can bring together basically a pinwheel of stars like we have, okay, and cause a mutual interaction like we have in our Milky Way galaxy. But I'm not saying this isn't true. There is evidence to suggest, like, our supermassive black hole at our galactic core is called Sagittarius A, and it is it's pretty much proven to be a black hole, a supermassive black hole.
But we've never actually seen one. I know we saw.
Well, we
possibly
see the energy that comes from the black hole. We see the bleed off. The energy. They show up in other ways. You know, and because you can't actually see a black hole because why? It's black. You know, light can't even escape it. Okay, no electromagnetic radiation can escape once it passes what's called the event horizon.
Right. Someone wanted to know if you were familiar with a past guest that we had here, David Parry's, his warp drive. Are you familiar with that?
I might be. That sounds familiar. Actually.
Yeah. We'll skip along here. Another question up here. What's your opinion on multiple dimensions? Well, like a multiple universe, or I mean,
I'm very familiar with the multiverse. Because, in fact, I read an article today which showed that yet more evidence that there's parallel universes
from the Hadron Collider.
No. This was actually an article on the BBC network, which I read, and a team of scientists have discovered that it looks like our universe is leaking. For all intents and purposes.
We're sinking?
It's leaking. And where the energy and matter is going seems to be to another place, another dimension, another universe.
Wow. That's exciting.
It is. Yeah. And as long as I'm not there. Because I'm going to go, oh, here I go.
You know, it kind of explain a lot of things.
Well,
the dark energy and all that, what's going on.
Yeah, maybe the universe is losing its mind, and now we're seeing it.
Can a black hole actually, I think this is going to be the last black hole question. Can a black hole swallow an entire galaxy?
Well, sure. I mean, a black hole is voracious.
So why would it stop? I mean, can a black hole destroy... I mean, I'm going to go way out here and just say, can a black hole take everything and just get more massive and more massive? What happens when a black hole eats and keeps eating?
It gets fat. I know I'm being funny, but the truth is, black holes are a phenomenon that exists, and when they're approached by a star, that star can bleed energy off into the black hole. The star can be consumed by the black hole, and our galaxy is consuming stars and matter at its core. in its black hole every day, all the time, 24/7.
I'm glad we're not close to it.
No, I think that's good, because as you pass the event horizon in a black hole, the gravitational gradient, the difference in gravity from your head to your toes, if you went in straight, would be so great that you would be, and here we go again for your human, see your human limitations.
Yeah.
Is so great that your body would be stretched out into an infinitely long strand of spaghetti. Okay, kind of a thing. So, an infinitely long string, that's right there. That's hard enough to figure out.
Yeah. I remember it being probably, 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 years old, and getting a bubble gum and opening the wrapper, and it said a teaspoon of a black hole would weigh, I forget what it said. It was like, as more than a skyscraper or something like that. It was in the 60s.
I think it was the weight of Manhattan Island.
Is that what it was?
Yeah. A teaspoon of neutron star degenerate matter would weigh as much as the island of Manhattan.
That's the only way we can try to conceive something like that.
Yeah. No one can understand, how matter like that can be so packed in. But they have to understand that this is exactly what the universe is doing.
When the event horizon, someone is asking here, is it kind of like getting sucked in a drain when you're going down the bathtub?
Oh, yeah, I hate to say this, but that's a popular construct for trying to see, like the movie The Black Hole showed basically a two-dimensional swirling drain in the sky that you're being sucked into. But a black hole is spherical. And you can orbit the black hole. Like, for instance, and I'll get to this in a second, but if our sun became a black hole tomorrow, which it can't, it's not massive enough, but if it became a black hole tomorrow, do you know what would happen to all the planets going around it? Nothing. They would keep orbiting forever, just like they have, because the black hole is isolated. There's no other star for it to leach off of and gain more mass. It's going to have the same mass as the sun. It would just be black.
Wow. Another question up here. Would a star explode when being sucked into a black hole, or would it just take it in whole?
It would actually, it forms what's called an accretion disk. It's like a disk around a black hole of material that's bleeding off the star. Because you have to understand that a star that gets too close to a black hole would enter into some kind of orbit around it.
Mm-hmm.
And stars that do get close are already known to bleed matter across this center point of rotation around them. And that bleeding point is actually, in the case of a star in a black hole, the point at which the energy would no longer be able to come back to the star. It's going to go to the black hole, swirl around the black hole, go into the event horizon, and be gone, be gobbled up.
Now I'm going to ask you a really bizarre...
But no, a star probably wouldn't explode. It would probably just bleed to death.
Uh-huh. Would you ever speculate that it's possible? How do you like that start? That a...
I have to say yes.
that an intelligent society, an Earth-like planet on a solar system with high intelligence like us have been sucked into it. Medium or low, whatever, but have been sucked right into a black hole. This could happen, right?
Well, when you, I guess, based on the fact that the universe is so vast, and based on the fact that we see 40 billion with a B as in boy, similar Earth-like planets alone in our galaxy, okay. With 40 billion Earth-like planets just alone in our galaxy, I think that maybe the possibility that a intelligence might have gotten too close to a black hole, maybe. And, of course, we'd never know, would we?
No. I knew that was going to be kind of a strange question. But
it was, but that's, I know you had to ask because, that is a curious thing.
Yeah.
People do want to know that.
The biggest black hole now discovered, it's... over, and this is a really hard number to explain, over 10 billion times the size of the mass of our sun. The explosion is expected to last like 100 million years. Have you looked into this?
Not that particular. I mean, it's going to be
the largest explosion since the Big Bang is how it's touted.
Okay, well, black holes don't make explosions. In fact, they do the exact opposite. They just shrink out of existence. They're the stars that make them shrink out of existence. I'm not sure.
All right, well.
Not sure what case you're talking about there.
Okay. I was reading right off of, I actually copied that right off of the article itself. So, but anyway, someone on the message board said, "Are you sure that, or can you talk more about each galactic center? What keeps a galaxy together if there's not a black hole there?"
Well, you have to understand that the nucleus of every galaxy has more stars and more density of stars than the arms around the galaxy. Now, the arms of a galaxy are formed by a strange process called density waves. And so when you look at a galaxy, the shape, you think in terms of a pinwheel, and you think of it as a pinwheel. That pinwheel shape is constructed through a very complicated set of relationships between the mass in that galaxy, right, and the gas in that galaxy and the dust in that galaxy. It all comes into play. So, at the center of every galaxy, we suspect there are black holes, and we know there's one in the center of ours, and that's why we suspect everybody else. Okay, and we see evidence of that, when we look at other galaxies. But what holds them together is their mutual gravitational attraction.
It's very similar to a solar system in a way, isn't it? I mean,
it is. If you think about it, if the center of the galaxy were where the sun is, okay, I mean, the planets would be at various points out in the spiral arms of the galaxy and going around. It's all gravity. And, it's hard for people to understand why the solar system is has an ecliptic plane, that is a plane through which all the planets circulate around the sun. Why isn't there some going north to south and east to west and all over the place? That seems odd. It has to do with an equilibrium that's reached in a solar system case, where there might have been planets that do that weird thing, but before long they get ejected from the solar system through gravitational interaction. Once it settles down, you're left with what we have now, this disk, like an accretion disk, okay? This accretion disk formed planets, and then those planets continued to circle around and sweep up the rest of the dust in our solar system, leaving some asteroids, some dust, okay? And this, on the small scale, I say small scale, it took us 15 years to get to Pluto with the New Horizons probe. This, on a small scale, is kind of how a galaxy works. The galaxy creates these, the stars are created in the galaxy from the gas and from the dust. And instead of planets, there's stars. And these stars circulate around a common center they all have. And that's the gravitational attraction that we're talking about. So it's the mutual gravitational attraction holds everything together and allows us to continue to circulate around the galaxy. And the sun will make one revolution around the galaxy, and then make another, and then another. Okay, tens and tens of thousands of years, it takes to go around. And that's basically the answer to that question. It's just mutual gravitational attraction that holds us all together.
So our galaxy is moving, and I don't know what it's compared to, but it's moving like 1,000,000 miles an hour type of thing. Is that part of the expansion? B, where is it moving from? How do they judge a galaxy moving that fast?
It's not easy, and I'll tell you what's going on. We are part of what's called the local group of galaxies. There's other galaxies in the group with us. Okay?
So, again, like a gravitational thing?
That's correct. If there's a more massive galaxy over there, and I'm pointing in one direction in my office here, and we feel that attraction, we'll start moving toward it. Now, that's relative. We're all moving, everybody in the group's moving in one particular way, okay? And maybe even moving outward and expanding, but some of those inside are making all these little ancillary motions because they're being attracted by other attractors, such as another galaxy that's more massive. There's galaxies that collide and go through each other. And you can look online for galactic collision
stars
simulation.
are so stars are so far apart, stars don't actually collide when galaxies collide, right?
No, that's correct. In fact, you could go through another galaxy and never know you did.
Mm-hmm. But does it change the gravitational...
Oh, yeah, it changes the whole structure of the galaxy.
And solar systems, too?
Not generally. I mean, I can't say for sure, but I imagine it's again, it's happening over such a long period of time. It takes millions of years, perhaps, for a galaxy to pass through another. Mm-hmm. And during that time, the inhabitants wouldn't know anything happened. If they were around for that time, and lived that long, they wouldn't notice any difference. In all likelihood.
Would you say that, is there any possibility of all that the Big Bang theory is wrong?
Well, there's always a possibility that we didn't get it right. We thought there was just one. It turns out there's most likely more. Multiverses. Now, the thing that they talk about is these parallel universes. They think of them as adjacent to ours. We're immediately putting a structure to it when we don't really have structure to put to it. Mm-hmm. We don't know whether it's adjacent or interdimensional, superimposed with us, at the same place as us, all concentric spheres, so to speak, but all occupying the same space in different dimensions. There's a mind bender, trying to think about multiple dimensions and multiple universes all in the same place at the same time.
Yeah. And, we can only, the human, our senses can only sense so many things. So if there was another dimension, is it the only way we're going to find out is through equipment or some type of...
Yeah, the study of multiple dimensions, you start entering into string theory and so forth and advanced astrophysics. None of it is intuitive. Absolutely none of it is really intuitive at all. And, see, we live in 4 dimensions. X, Y, and Z, all moving through time. Time is a dimension.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so it's X, Y, Z, and T. So we have a 4-dimensional universe. But what we see of our universe and understand is only 5% of the universe. We don't see the other 70+% and 20+% of dark energy and dark matter in the universe. We can't really touch it. We can't really experience it. We don't know how to really work with it. We only see 5%. But with that 5%, we've traveled to the moons and planets in our solar system relatively well. But we are not going to be able to use just that 5% to travel to the stars. We're going to have to harness dark energy. We're going to have to harness Hawking radiation bleeding out of black holes to power advanced starships. We're going to have to do all of those things. So we have to get there.
Unless we discover something in physics that we haven't found yet.
Well, it will involve doing so. It will involve discovering, that we have access to dark energy after all, or it will occur when we discover that the 0-point field really does exist and really is an unbalanced thing on both sides of the equation, not canceling out.
Okay, anyone can call in if you're listening live. You can call in at 603-967-4030. Love to have a call. Now, someone wanted to know how large, or how can you conceive how large the black hole in particular is in our galaxy?
Well,
large, medium, or small?
Yeah, exactly. Or if you want to supersize me, right? The bottom line is that a galaxy with a black hole in its core is going to have a certain energy output. And that energy output can be equated to some type of mass of a black hole. It's not easy. It's not. It's nothing but it's a mathematical exercise. You observe the values of the energy pouring out, and that's all you have. is this energy pouring out that you can see. Mm-hmm. Nothing else. There's nothing else.
The question always comes up when someone's talking to an astronomer, what's the edge of the universe? And if there was an edge of the universe, what would it look like? And I just never heard your opinion on that.
Well, in classical, mechanics, the edge of our universe is the location of the 3-degree, roughly the 3-degree cosmic background radiation. That's the radiation that came into existence around 300,000 years after the Big Bang. So that's as far back as we can look.
That's what I wanted to ask you, a question I wanted to ask you. And I sent you an email, and you answered me, and I forgot your answer on that.
I'll go through it again.
Like, if we can look, we're basically looking back. We're looking back in time. We keep looking back further and further, so we go all the way back to 380 million years after the Big Bang. Why can't we see the Big Bang happening?
Well, 380,000 years.
That's what I meant, 380,000 years.
Well, because light didn't exist. That's what I said right early on. Photons didn't exist until about 380,000 years.
So we're
after
missing
the Big
it.
Bang.
It's in the dark.
It's in the dark. And so we'll never be able to see it because it can't be seen. How about that? Now, there's a mind bender.
Yeah.
Okay? You say, well, how come photons didn't exist? Well, you have to look at all the reasons, all the reasons why photons come into existence at all. And none of them were satisfied by the Big Bang.
Yep. Someone's asking UFO questions. I'm sorry, in hour 2 here, we're going to try to stick to just the cosmos, basically, and we covered a lot of the UFO questions. If you missed that, you can go back to hour 1 in our podcast. Anyone can listen to hour 1 at podcastufo.com.
But advanced civilizations, will send craft, in my view, to our planet because if an advanced civilization, speaking of UFOs, if an advanced civilization exists now in our galaxy, or
in our
galaxy, never mind the universe, our galaxy alone, they might have existed 1 million years before us.
Right.
And in our feeble existence, tiny sliver of existence of maybe 50,000 years, if you want to really give us credit, 4 million years if you want to count Australopithecus, which never looked up, and didn't do its physics. In the 50,000 years when we're more civilized, we can see, in that time, we can actually see a horizon where we'll have a warp drive. And I do mean warp, as in warp drive, like Star Trek. It's kind of, esoteric sounding, but Miguel Alcubierre, we talked about this before, postulated what's called the Alcubierre metric, and it's basically a ship that puts a warp bubble around itself, using negative energy, and pulls the universe past it to go to its destination. Now, if you can muster the speed to pull the universe by you, then you, as a physical object, are not accelerating to the speed of light. You're sitting still. The universe is going by you. That's how you can travel faster than light. Because as a physical, corporeal being, you can't travel at the speed of light without being converted to pure energy. But if the universe is speeding by you, you're just sitting there going, whoa, hey, the universe is going by at high speed. Oh, look, there's Alpha Centauri. It only took us 4 days to get here. Yeah.
Wow, interesting. Yes, I had a talk with Jeffrey Bennett, astrophysicist.
Right.
And he basically said that his colleagues and him at NASA thought that any civilization that didn't destroy themselves would be out there traveling the stars.
Exactly.
And, that's, again, taking... I try to stay away from thinking an alien being could think like a human. But for the most part, I would think that anything would be inquisitive in one way or another. That's the only way I think a society or a intelligence can gain momentum is by being inquisitive and looking.
Any race that wishes to exist for any period of time is going to have to figure out how to leave their planet. They have to. The Earth is going to be destroyed by our own sun.
Yeah.
Eventually. When the sun runs out of hydrogen fuel, it's going to start burning helium ash into fuel, or creating fuel from the helium ash that it makes. And when it does that, it's going to
start to swell up.
It's going to swell up into a red giant, which could swallow the Earth.
Right.
And, I'm sorry, but there goes the neighborhood. That's the end of us. Okay, so we have to, by then, figure out how to get off this planet. Now, that's going to happen in exactly 1.2 years. No, I'm just kidding. It's going to happen in about 5 billion years. I said 5 billion years, not 1.2 years. Just remember that. It was a joke.
The possibility of the human race making it that far would be kind of slim. I mean, the Earth, it's possible, but, the Earth could be occupied by some other intelligence by then.
Or we could have a catastrophic asteroid event, which seems to happen every few 100,000 years or so. We've had 5 major extinctions on this planet alone, and it's possible that we're due for more.
A question up on the message board. What are your thoughts on life in need of strict Earth-like requirements to thrive?
In terms of, is there life like us out there?
Yeah, to thrive. Just, we think of there's so many things that could have happened to Earth where life would not be here. For instance.
Oh, okay.
Well,
let's I can answer that question by looking at Venus and Mars. Look at Venus. Venus is
800 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah, it's 900 degrees on the surface, right?
Yeah.
It's very, very hot. But Venus is just outside the inside edge of the habitable zone of our star. And Mars is just outside the edge of the habitable zone's outside edge. Now, why couldn't those support life? There was something very important that both of those planets lacked. Now, they both had a thick atmosphere early on. Mars actually had liquid water for a period of time. Magnetic field, right? A magnetic field generated by a molten core. Okay, creates a dynamo, a little electric motor, basically inside our planet, which gives us a magnetic sheath that protects us. But something else happened. Let's take Venus. Early on, Venus had a thick atmosphere, as thick as it is now, 90 times denser than our Earth's. At the time the early solar system existed, Earth had an atmosphere 90 times as dense as it is today, almost like Venus. So why are we different? We're different because something happened here that didn't happen there. Here, liquid water could rain out of the sky and form puddles and oceans. And on Venus, the liquid water was in the atmosphere as water vapor and was disassociated, broken apart by the hot solar energy, the energetic particles. It was too warm. And so without rain and without the ability for liquid water to form, we had a problem.
What about Mars?
Yeah, I get there.
Okay.
Yeah, we're starting the solar system.
Sorry.
So Venus ended up with high pressures, an atmosphere relatively unchanged. Earth, we had a very dense atmosphere, but it rained for millions of years. That's hard to comprehend. Millions of years. The weather report would be really simple. Yeah, it rained today. Yeah, really? All right, go figure. So it rained, and much of the density of our atmosphere rained out. And we had liquid water, standing water. This water is excellent for filtering out carbon dioxide. It accepts it like no tomorrow. So it's possible we had fizzy oceans early on because the carbon dioxide went into the oceans. It's called a carbon sink, that this carbon dioxide went into in the ocean. So that left us with a planet with a much less dense atmosphere. And then these little blue-green algae came about, which generated oxygen and ate up the rest of the carbon dioxide. So it was a very interesting planet the way that it developed. Now, Mars, on the other hand, Mars had a very dense atmosphere at one point, and it also had an atmosphere with liquid water and vast oceans on its surface. Well, what happened there? Mars is a smaller planet. Mars is also tectonically dead. Didn't have the same benefits as the Earth with a molten core. So it didn't have a magnetic field.
I thought it had a magnetic field, but it went away.
It did, but the problem is, when Mars lost its magnetic field, it also lost its atmosphere. Because now, rather than energetic solar particles circling around its poles, coming down and making auroras only at the north and south poles, that ionizing radiation, that ultraviolet radiation, could hit the upper atmosphere and disassociate the molecules of water vapor up in the atmosphere, rip apart any molecules up there. Those were lost to space. And then, because it's so much smaller than the Earth, it has a much lower gravity. And whenever it had asteroid collisions, and we see that it had many collisions over its lifetime, the collision would generate a huge plume of dust and debris, and at the same time blow off into space a huge amount of atmosphere. So Mars literally had some of its atmosphere blown right off into space.
Now, how would we know if a planet had a core like ours or not?
Well, obviously a magnetic field. A magnetic field's a very good indicator.
That's it. Okay.
Yeah.
So you hear there's a number of questions. I'm sorry I'm not getting to them all. And again, if you want to, we have about, I think it's 10 minutes or less than 10 minutes, 5 or so. If anyone wants to call in, 603-967-4030. And we're all set up to take calls if anyone wants to. What do you suppose is happening to our magnetosphere? It's losing. It's becoming a little weaker. Is that going to be an issue?
Yeah, well, actually, our magnetic field has a history of switching sides. And
reversal.
That's correct. Mm-hmm. Now, here's the thing about that. You see an awful lot of these doomsayers online saying, "Oh no, it's a pole shift coming." Well, what they don't understand, because they're not scientists and because they don't take the time to learn. And yes, I am insulting those that may, say this stuff on their websites and proselytize all this doom and gloom. I have to tell you this. A pole shift takes tens of thousands of years to occur. Mm-hmm. So if it was happening and we notice a little weakening of our magnetic field today, it doesn't mean that the pole shift is going to happen November 22nd at 5 p.m.
And planes are going to crash. And
that's not how it works.
Okay.
In fact, the pole shift would occur over tens of thousands, say 10,000 years. And in that time, birds would continue to fly right. Planes wouldn't even notice, because over 10,000 years you would make subtle adjustments to all your magnetic calibrations to account for it. Nothing will happen. We've been through it before.
Now, a question came up a while back, and person said that there's, NASA has found that there's life, chemically other than water. Can something live without water? I mean, water is necessary for life as far as we know, right?
Well, you made a very good point. Life as we know it, all right? Now, on Saturn's moon, Titan, we have methane oceans, methane and ethane seas. Now, we think it's too cold for life like we know it to exist there. But there is a possibility that there are methane-loving microbes living in that soup that can withstand that cold. It's not a very good possibility. But there are other moons in the solar system where that's possible and where that could actually be taking place. None come to mind because there haven't been any breakthroughs in discoveries in that realm yet. But we have to understand that the possibility exists for life, not as we know it, as my friend Paulino likes to say.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm trying to remember, is it Saturn's moon or Jupiter? Saturn's moon, isn't it, that has the thick, 2-mile ice around it?
You're talking about Jupiter's moon, Europa?
I'm talking about Europa.
Yeah, Europa has a thick ice sheath,
and it's and because Jupiter is so massive, it kind of like when you knead a dough, kind of makes it possibly stay liquid and warm under.
You know your science, Martin. That's exactly what happens.
A little bit.
The tidal energies of Jupiter squishing Europa in a ball back and forth and left and right, okay, create friction and thus heat, and also create what we think is a super saline sea 100 miles deep underneath the European surface.
Oh, it's 100 miles.
It's like 100 miles, that's what they think. Yeah, Enceladus is Saturn's moon that you're confusing it with. And Enceladus is only a few hundred miles across itself. But there's hydrocarbons spewing out of liquid water geysers on its south pole.
Yeah.
And for NASA's Unexplained Files, I recreated Enceladus here in my studio. We created an Enceladus with geysers and had it doing. Of course, the British call them geezers, and we just laugh our butts off because it's like old
geezers. Is that an old one?
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
So tidal forces heated up Europa to probably melt that ice. That's what we think.
Now, and I've heard it said that it's possible that there's life of some type of form underneath the ice, but doesn't life need sunlight of some kind?
Well,
I know you get deep down in the ocean.
We would have said so some years ago, but then after Project Famous, that the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution did in 1975 or so, they found the black smoker vents, the sulfide chimneys spewing several hundred-degree mineral-laden water, and oases of life around these vents that would never see sunlight thousands and thousands of feet down in the ocean. In fact, the life down there was chemosynthetically supported, not photosynthetically supported. So it was living off of chemistry, microbes that ate the methane at the vents. Nothing to do with photosynthesis at all. So before that discovery, we might have thought that only photosynthetic life could exist.
Wow. We only have, I think, 3 or 4 minutes left. Keith will let me know soon. What do you think about panspermia and about, like, bacteria? They find, like, I think there was something out in space that came back that had bacteria, living bacteria.
Yeah, that was the ISS, as a matter of fact. They found living microbes on the outside of the ISS space station, the International Space Station. And that kind of brings to light the possibility that maybe life on Earth was helped along by comets, bringing us the building blocks of life, meteorites bringing amino acids and more building blocks of life, and possibly microbes. So it's possible that panspermia is indeed a process by which things happened here on Earth. We do know that in the Mille-Urée experiment that was conducted years ago, amino acids were generated by bombarding what they thought was a primordial Earth atmosphere in a sealed flask. And after a week, when they examined it, they found that amino acids were miraculously constructed.
Unbelievable.
Amino acids are the building blocks of life.
Wow. Amazing. We only have 30 seconds left. Is there a way, if someone would like to contact you and just ask you more questions, is there a way someone can reach out to you and actually talk to you?
Absolutely. If they want to contact the MUFON headquarters at MUFON.com, MUFON.com, they can find me through the headquarters, through a headquarters inquiry, and I'll be happy to answer questions.
All right, great. Well, it's been a lot of fun. I'm glad I made it down here.
I am too. It's like live on location. It's like my house. It's fun.
Yeah, and it's funny. It was a last-minute thought, and I know at this point a lot of people listen to the show to listen for UFOs, but I just got a message that we have to go. So, everyone, thanks so much. I appreciate everyone listening live in the chat room and all that. And next week we have Cheryl Costa. She's going to be on talking about UFOs and around Syracuse, New York. And thanks so much, everyone. And this is Martin Willis here with Marc D'Antonio in Connecticut.
Thank you, folks.
And keep your eyes to the sky.
Sky.